Loneliness. We've all felt it at some point or another. You may be surrounded by people all the time. You may have coworkers, family members, and be in a relationship. But that debilitating I'm alone feeling could still creep up on you. Turns out, you shouldn't really be blaming yourself for that feeling. We can instead look to evolution. Although loneliness is considered a negative feeling, it is actually something we need in order to overcome a situation that may put us at a disadvantage.
When we're isolated and have that feeling that we're being left out, we have an alarm that goes off that causes us to have pain. So the pain is a marker of that distress. People that are lonely are in really great pain, and it's every bit as real as the pain of a physical injury or illness.
Neuroscientist John Cacioppo came up with a theory that claims loneliness actually played a significant role in the survival of our species. Early Homo sapiens had a better chance of protecting themselves from predators by banding together. It also made hunting and finding shelter easier. And by living in a community, the chances of procreation likely increased. Cacioppo's research found that the pain of loneliness acted like a stimulus. Your brain was pretty much saying, "Hey there, I feel isolated. This could be a threat. Do something about it." So protective social bonds were created. Those who stuck together had a better chance of survival. Today, what scientists are racing to figure out is exactly which mechanism in the brain compels us to seek out companionship. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, 2 neuroscientists had a breakthrough studying the brains of mice. Gillian Matthews and researcher Kay Tai think they found the source of motivation in a group of dopamine neurons in part of the brain called the dorsal raft nucleus.
There was a great increase in their activity when animals engaged in social contact after they'd had a period of isolation. So something about being isolated for a while seemed to enhance the sensitivity of these neurons to social engagement.
Mice, like humans, are social creatures that generally prefer to live in groups. Isolate a mouse from its cage mates, and once confinement ends, it will spend more time interacting with other mice, to a much greater extent than if it had been with its mates all along. To better understand why, the researchers genetically engineered the dopamine cells in the dorsal raft nucleus to respond to light. They artificially stimulated the cells to mimic a loneliness-like state. When stimulated, the mice, if given a choice, actively avoided the situation, just like they tried to avoid physical pain. During stimulation, the mice showed similar behaviors to being socially isolated, choosing to spend significantly more time with other mice afterwards.
Animals and humans alike will eat because they really enjoy food, but they'll also eat to avoid this negative state of hunger, which is a very strong driving force for seeking food. And so we're thinking about social contact in a similar way. So animals really engage in social contact because they enjoy just the socializing and the rewarding aspect of social contact, but they'll also socialize to avoid being isolated and to avoid that negative state associated with loneliness and isolation. So that's what we are hypothesizing that these neurons are representing.
While history shows these evolutionary protective mechanisms may have worked for our ancestors, today's modern world makes things a little more complicated. People are moving from villages to big cities, breaking social networks for higher education and jobs, and social media can often give people a false sense of connection. The media seems to have agreed that rich countries are experiencing a loneliness epidemic, but whether or not loneliness is actually increasing is debatable. What we do know is that in Canada, 47% of people say they feel lonely and wish they had more friendly human contact. It's pretty much the same in the US, with 46% of the population saying they're lonely.
But what's becoming more and more clear is that we cannot ignore loneliness as an issue that's impacting health outcomes. And if we're not trying to think of some of the different drivers, or better address some of those things that are driving people to loneliness and away from people, failing to do so both has an impact at the individual level, where people can really suffer when they're alone, and also we can see worse health outcomes as a society.
If loneliness is not mitigated, studies have shown that it can trigger anxiety, stress, and depression. Chronic loneliness can drive up cortisol levels, a hormone that your body creates when under stress, which can lead to cardiovascular disease and high blood pressure.
Part of what we need to do as a culture, I think, is to get back to the idea that everybody needs relationship. We literally need it like we need air, like we need water, like we need food.
So the next time you feel lonely, think about your dorsal raphe nucleus. It could be that your neurons are trying to help you out. Thanks for watching. To stay up to date on the latest breaking national and international news, be sure to subscribe to our channel, where we also dig into big issues around the world in our weekly series, Global News Explains.